Doing square roots today. Mention them, well, not just today. All right, we're starting, so you can, boys. Okay, not just today, really it's the whole chapter, square roots. So a square root, all it means is what squared equals that number. What times itself equals that number. Is it the same thing as division?
No.
Not really. I mean, it's kind of related. So let's start with the square numbers. What's 1 squared?
1.
What's 2 squared?
4.
What's 3 squared? 4 squared?
16.
5 squared? 6 squared?
36. 49.
Okay. If you keep those in mind, that'll help a lot, this chapter. Yeah, these are all called square numbers. 1, 4, 9, 16, because something squared equals them. Last chapter I kept saying square minus a square, that's what I was talking about. Okay, so all these square numbers have nice square roots. So the square root of 25, for example, is 5. Okay, because 5 times 5 is 25. It's kind of like division, but not really, because 25 divided by 5 is 5. A little bit related. Okay, square root of 16 is
4.
yes. Okay. Well, a lot of people actually get that one wrong because guess what they put?
8.
Okay, but it's not 8. It's not dividing by 2. It's what squared, what times itself equals that number.
So I'm smart.
Uh-huh.
Wow.
Okay, now let's see if I can fool you. How about square root of 1/4?
1 over 2.
Yeah, so when you do a fraction, you can basically do square root of 1 over square root of 4. Square root of 1 is 1 and square root of 4 is 2. Okay. How about square root of, guys? This one might fool us.
5.
No.
0.05.
Okay, do you guys remember how multiplying decimals works?
It's 0.5.
Yeah. When you multiply decimals, remember you do 0.5 times 0.5. You just multiply those two. And then each decimal place shows up in the answer. So yeah, it's 0.5. Okay. How about this? Negative square root of 100.
It's not answered.
Negative, no, it is an answer, it's negative 10. Okay. This is the one that has issues. So, you basically do square root of 100 and then tack on the negative. But in this case, it means what times itself equals negative 64. Is it 8 times 8? No, that's positive 64. Is it negative 8 times negative 8? That's positive 64. So what we're going to put for these is not real. This is something called an imaginary number, which we're not really going to touch until Algebra 2. So
We're going to touch it right now. Why are we touching it? I want to know.
okay, we're just going to put not real. Not real. Okay. Now, this symbol doesn't always mean square root. The symbol, by the way, is called a radical. Sometimes, be quiet, sometimes they put little numbers up here in the corner. Okay, this is called a cubed root. Okay, if they don't put a number in there, it's implied that you're doing a square root, because that's kind of the normal thing. So if there's no number in there, it's what's the second root? What squared equals this? So what do you think a cubed root means?
That number is.
It's what cubed equals a. You guys know why they call it a root?
No.
Because roots are like where it comes. Shh, be quiet. Root means where it comes from. So what cubed equals 8? Where did the 8 come from? What cubed equals 8? It's 2. Because 2 times 2 is 4, and 4 times 2 is 8. 2 times 2 times 2 is 8. Okay, do you guys know how to plug this in your calculator? Let's do this. You guys might know this, I don't know. How about cube root of 64? Let's see if we can all figure out how to plug this in our calculator. Do anybody want to guess what it is? I think some people already plugged it in. Okay, does anybody need help figuring out how to plug that? Everybody's calculator is different, so I can't really. That calculator, it's above your. You know how to plug a power in?
Yeah.
You have to hit like shift Y to the X. I think you have to hit your root first, so like 3, and then shift Y to the X, and then 64, and then equals.
3.
Or maybe it's 64 first.
64 root.
Shift Y to the X, like second Y to the X. Okay, anyways. There's a lot of Casios to figure out. Okay, if you've got a Casio,
You just shift the thing with
if you hit shift square root, up in the yellow goldish thing it says third root. Or, where's the other one
What? I'm confused.
at? If you look at the X power button, it has a lot of, you can plug it in here. But basically you have to hit shift. Let's move that. I'll get it later.
Can you help me with this one?
Okay. It's either, you know what I mean
It's
by
my X right here.
second Y to the X, you know what I mean by that? The green button in the corner. It's like the
This
shift
one right here?
Yeah.
Yeah. Can you do with that?
You see above the Y to the X, it should have like a square root symbol.
X square root Y.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see it.
So that means they want you to plug the X in first, so 3. And then
second root that.
second, yeah, and then the 64. And then hit equals.
I got 4.
Yeah, it's 4.
Oh, that's how you did it. Okay.
Okay, because 4 cubed is. Alright. We haven't quite learned everything, but we learned enough to get going. Does anybody want to start us off? I want to do as many of these as we can without a calculator.
What?
Okay, Wyatt, number 1. Oh, I did forget one thing. Okay, what do you guys think this is going to be? This is 4.
Not in nature.
negative.
Okay,
Because it's cubed.
right. Because a negative times a negative times a negative does equal a negative. So you can have the cube root of a negative, or any odd power, any odd root can be negative. But the even roots do not work. Okay, number 3, Hank.
Negative 6.
-6. Okay, Jackson, number 5. 7/4. You did the square root of 49 is 7. The square root of 16 is 4. Number 7. This one might. I wouldn't be mad if you guys plug this one in. Number 7, Avery. Shh. Yes, 0.1. Number 9, Manny. Not real. Cannot happen. The square root of 196 is actually 14. But the negative part makes it not possible. Number 11. Oops. Okay, 11's a fourth root. There are fourth root buttons on your calculator, not just cube roots. I don't know if yes. You hit 4, shift, just like the other one. Okay, any guesses? What times what times what times what equals? Yeah, 2 times 2 is 4, times 2 is 8, times 2 is 16. Yeah, it takes 4 2's multiplied together. Okay. Maybe I should stop them. 2 to the 4th is 2 times 2 times 2 times 2, right? What's the difference? What is 2 times 4? No. What does it mean? Maybe you guys don't know. It means 2 plus 2 plus 2. It's adding 4 2's together. Okay, this is the difference. Exponents tells you how many times you multiply that number together. Multiplying tells you how many times you add the number together. That's the difference. Okay, anyways. 13. Luke. Might not know this one. What cubed equals 27? Not a lot of options, huh? 9 to the second is 81, so it's definitely not.
So 3?
Yeah. 3 times 3 times 3. 3 times 3 is 9, times 3 is 27.
So you gotta make it negative.
But because it's negative, yeah, it's going to be negative 3. Is 14 going to be possible?
No. Yes.
Yes, it is possible. It is tricky, maybe, but it is possible. Because you can have a cube root of a negative. That works. 16, probably don't know this. Jesse, any guesses on what 16 is? Is it going to come out positive or negative? We'll start with that.
It's gonna come out negative.
Yeah.
Oh, it's gonna be like it's gonna be like 0.5 or something.
Yeah. So when you do 5 times 5 times 5, it's 125. When you do 0.5 times 0.5 times 0.5, it's the same thing, but with a decimal. That's the wrong number. What number was that? Ooh, I accidentally did 16. Oopsie.
Yeah.
My bad. 15. So, based on what we just said, Davin, what's the cube root of 125? Yes. Yeah, we just looked at both of these. The cube root of 125 we just talked about was 5. Cube root of 64, we did that before we started. Okay, so when they're fractions, you just treat it like two separate things. Cube root of 125 is 5. Cube root of 64 is 4. So that's 5/4. All right. This one's interesting. Square root of 1492 squared. They wrote it slightly. Yeah. When you square something and then take the square root.
That's 18. That's 18.
Oh, darn it, I did it again. What am I looking at here? Oh, they're almost the same. Never mind. 1492 squared, square root. Okay. Squares and square roots are opposite. This one's like 1492 times 1492. And then you square root it, it means what times itself equals that giant number. And the answer is 1492. Because they are opposite, they cancel out. It's kind of like when you multiply by 2 and then divide by 2, you go right back to where you started. When you square and then square root, they cancel out. They go right back to where it starts. Okay, same thing. Yeah, same thing on 18. When on 18, the difference is you square it first, so you get smaller first, and then you square it and it goes back up. But it's the same idea. What is 1492?
On the sea, the ocean blue.
Columbus, 1776. Yeah, it's when America declared its independence, July 4th. Okay. Abby, any guesses on what this one will do? Okay, when you cube it, it's going to be really big, like it won't even fit on your calculator. It'd be 1776 times 1776 times 1776. But then when you cube root it, it means what cubed equals that giant number. And the answer would be 1776. They cancel out. These are opposites. Roots and powers are opposite. Roots and exponents are opposites. Okay, so on 21 they want us to try to figure out what this is close to without actually solving it.
Could you re-explain
Yeah, I'm a little confused.
What?
Could you re-explain number 19?
Were you doing
Oh, never mind.
were you doing the evens when I was talking about it?
I won't say
Guilty.
yes, but I won't say no.
Guilty as charged.
Okay, I
Okay.
get it.
Wait,
Sucks to suck why I quit doing
Okay.
the evens.
When you cube this number, it's something gigantic. 1776 times 1776 times 1776. Won't fit on the calculator. But then when you cube root that, it means what cubed equals that giant number. Cubes and cubed roots are opposites, so they cancel each other out. Okay, square root of 18, there is no nice answer for this. If you plugged it in your calculator, it'd give you an infinite decimal. Well, actually, if you have a nice calculator, it'll do like 3 squared root of 2, which is not what we're doing right now. It does not come out nice, because 4 times 4 is 16, and 5 times 5 is 25. So this is going to be just a little bit bigger than 4. So what they want us to do is just estimate. What's this going to be close to? It's closer to 4 than it is to 5. Does that make sense? It's probably like 4.2, I would guess. But we're not going to write that. We're just going to put it's about 4. You guys know the about symbol? Squiggly equals. Sometimes I write it whenever the mood strikes me, but usually I just put equals. Usually don't worry about it. Okay. Square root of 75. What's that close to? What times what gets kind of close to that? 9 times 9 is 81. That's kind of close, as opposed to 8 times 8, which is 64, and that's farther away. So it's about 9. It's going to round to 9.
I think you've done it again, Mr. Jordan.
Oh man, I'm terrible today. Okay, 300. Oh, that one's tough. Yeah, 300. That's a tough one. That's outside of your times tables. I guess to do it without a calculator, you just have to start multiplying stuff together and see what gets close. 17 times 17 is 289. I think 18 times 18 is, I forget, 324. So 17 is a little bit closer. I'll do that. Okay, 25, it says plug in your calculator and round to the place that they tell you to. So what is the 10th place? First decimal place. First place after the decimal. Okay, a lot of you have Casios, which is going to help a lot. Sorry, I took yours last time. I'll take yours this time.
You can have mine, Mr. Jordan.
Okay, so if you plug in like square root of 12, Casio does something you're going to really appreciate this chapter. some TIs, this one's a good Texas Instrument, it'll do it also. Some calculators are better than others at this chapter, a lot better. It'll spit out 2 square to 3, which is normally what we're gonna want this chapter. But on this section it says round it to the nearest decimal.
So you need S to D it.
Right, so that, have you guys done that button before? There's SD button.
No, I read.
It's right above the delete button if you have a Casio.
It's the S to D.
Yeah, it probably means like standard to decimal or something. Standard to decimal is what
I
it
have a
is.
format.
I don't have
Does
that.
that do the same thing?
This one is.
If you got a basic calculator, it'll automatically spit out a decimal. So Luke, yours should just go
Is there
straight.
any way you can like change it
We
from
were-
decimal to like the 2/3 thing?
2 square to 3.
Yeah, 2 square to 3.
By hand, not calculator. The decimals are infinite and they don't repeat. So there's no way to like plug in the decimal version.
Ugh.
So, let's see, Kenton, did you plug it in already?
Which one?
25 squared to 12. Give me like 3 digits. Tell me what the first 3 digits.
3.464.
Okay.
464.
Oh, 464.
Should be.
Okay, so on 25 it says rounding to the 10th place. If you round incorrectly, these will be wrong. That's basically all we're doing on this problem. So the 10th place is right after the decimal. It's the first decimal place. It's called tenths because this 4 is worth 4/10. Okay, this is the hundredths place. This is the thousandths place. And it goes 10,000ths, 100,000ths, millions. So if we're rounding to the 10th place, we look right after it at the 6. And the 6 tells us, are we going to round that 4 up to a 5? Or is it going to stay down as a 4? Okay, if this digit right after the 4 is 5 or greater, then this 46 is closer to a 50 than it is to a 40, right? So this 4 is going to round up to a 5. So this is about 3.5. Okay, you could say it's about 3.50 or 3.500. Those values are all the same, but we're just going to put 3.5. I'm just kind of hoping you guys remember rounding, but if you don't, I can help you out. Square root of 43. Case, have you plugged that one in?
No. Square root of 6.557. 4.
Okay. Yeah, so on 27 it says the thousandths place. So it's tenths, hundredths, thousandths. Is that 4 going to push up the 7 or is it going to stay down as a 7?
Stay down.
Right, 4 is not big enough to change it. So it's just going to stay 6.557. It's basically because 74 is closer to 70 than it is to 80. So if the number after the 7 is below 5, it's going to stay down as a 7. Alright, 29. One more. Brooke, this one's yours. Cube root of 572,000 tenth place. Okay. Oh no, not 83.3. It's 83 point what? 0. Sorry. I probably just didn't hear you right. They do go ahead and put a 0 even though that doesn't change the value, just to show that they're being accurate to this place. All right, this last section, how far did I say we're going? 34, is something new. I don't think it's hard, but it is different. It is different. Let's see. Mm. Okay, do you guys remember what I called this symbol right here with the little hat?
Square root.
Yeah,
Radical.
it's called a radical, yeah. It's not always a square root, because in this case it's a cube root, right? So, this is called radical form when you write it with this. All of this, though, all of this can be expressed in just the exponent. Okay, if you have 5 squared and the cube root of that, that's the same thing as 5 to the 2 thirds. So in the exponent, you put the power over the root. Does that make sense? So if I had like a cubed square root. Now, earlier I said if there's no number right here, what number is right here? There's a 2. Because it means what's the square root? That's what they're asking. So this would be a to the 3 halves. Okay, this form is very useful sometimes when you just put the power and the root in a fraction. Okay, it's still an exponent, but it's just power over the root. Okay, so on number 31, this is probably one of the trickier ones. It says square root of 5. Okay, if there is no power on the 5, this is like,
That's 30.
yeah.
31 is 3 squared.
Okay, let's go ahead and talk about this one because it's tricky. Okay, if there is no power on the 5, what power is on the 5? 1. If there's no root on the radical, what root is on the radical? 2. So this is 5 to the 1/2 power. Alright, now on to 31. Okay, so this has 2 things inside the radical. They're just multiplied together. So we're just going to kind of do them separately. So this would be like 3 to the what power? If there's no power on the 3, it's a 1. There's no root out here, so what would the root be? 2. So this is 3 to the 1/2, just like the last one. And then basically it's multiplied to the x. I'm not going to put anything, I'm just going to put x. And this is x to the 3/2. Man, my brain's just not working, is it? Didn't get enough sleep, I guess.
Daylight savings time got 'em.
Yeah, I'm blaming it on that.
How late did you stay at the school last night?
8, I think. Sunday night I usually do my planning. I lost my place. 5th root x 3x squared y cubed. Alright, did I write the right one this time?
Yes.
Okay. Miranda, do you know what this is going to be? 3? Okay, what's the power on this one? Yeah. So it'll be 3 to the what? Yucky. Yeah, 1/5. And then it'll be x to the what? Yeah. And y to the... Yeah. Okay, the problem with this part is we're not going to see this again for a while, and then you're going to forget it by the time we get to the end. Especially because the end is after spring break. So I'll try to remind you between now and then.
About 1:45. Oh.
Yeah.
I mean, unless you want to change it.
Yeah.
If the,
Mr. Jordan,
the,
come here, please.